Harry Stein began with a few bucks and has now amassed billions of dollars in wealth. Farm boy turned expert in seed genetics, Harry Stein has amassed a fortune by granting genetic licenses for corn and soybeans to large corporations like Syngenta and Monsanto. Stein created and oversaw Stein Seed. His current passion is modifying the genetic makeup of seeds to increase yields or make them resistant to pesticides. How did Harry Stein start out in the industry? The Iowa-based Stein Seed Company began as a small farm in the center of the state and has grown into a global leader in the genetics in maize and soybeans. Although Stein Seed genetics are now used all over the world, the Iowa-based company had extremely modest origins. The origins of Stein's history may be traced back more than 80 years to a time when Bill Stein cleaned and sold public seed varieties to surrounding Dallas County residents. The CEO of the business, Harry Stein, fell in love with farming from a very young age. He still resides on the farm in west central Iowa, where he reared his 4 children. I still reside in the property where I was raised. Though I've worked there for 75 years, I lived there longer, Harry claims. Driving a little beef farmall to pick up bales of straw was my first job. Really, all I was doing was pushing it across the field because I was unable to reach the pedals and had no idea how the shifting operated. My father would farm 40 to 80 acres using soybean seed and public types of oats from the university system. A man would come in, clean it, and place it in a trash can. In a sense, we were in the seed business since we would then sell it to our neighbor, according to Harry. Unless a new variety emerged, which could be marked up somewhat higher because farmers didn't already have it in their bins, there would be very little profit made on the seed. The seed would only be marked up a very modest amount. My father wisely said you could plant soybeans at half rate and get twice the yield, so we planted twice as many acres as others, Harry recalls, referring to a mid-1960s year when the variety was Amsoy. They reasoned that by planting twice as many acres, they would receive more seed and boost their profit margins. We began to get involved in the seed business after that. Many people in the neighborhood knew that Harry was interested in seed cultivation. So when he learned that soybeans cultivated south of Adel contained 5 seeds per pod, he decided to find out for himself. To identify the soybean variety, a plant breeder at Iowa State University examined the seed. Taking it to the Walt Fair, the new breeder of soybeans, the agronomist had never seen this kind of soybean before. Harry had assistance from the technician in understanding how new types were created when Fair wasn't in his office. I asked him how they create new varieties of soybeans. Later on, the variety was recognized as Ballinger Specialties. 5 individuals who attended the fall 1967 meeting that Fair asked for a soybean breeding program went on to found Improved Variety Research. This was America's first private company dedicated to soybean research and development. IVR was disbanded after a few years of very little revenue. Nonetheless, Stein continued to be active in soybean research and development, and with the assistance of Bill Eby, his chief soybean breeder, he developed Midwest Oilseeds into the biggest and most prosperous soybean program in the United States. In the early 1980s, the firm expanded even further and started a maize breeding program. Sales of more than 500,000 units had been achieved by the middle of the 1980s. What about the family's involvement in the business? The Stein family, who are still employed by the company now, also grew throughout this early period of its development. Since she was 14 years old, Lucinda Stein, the oldest child, has worked in the acquisition and pollination of soybeans. She returned to the soybean department many years ago after taking a break to raise her 2 sons. Her 2 sons are employed at Stein Seed as well. In addition to serving as corporate counsel for the Stein Seed Company, Brenda Stein is an attorney for Des Moines law firm. Her 4 children are split between her twin girls, who are enrolled in law school, and a senior in high school. Warren Stein does studies on corn. When asked at age 13 if he would rather work on the corn or soybeans, he says he went with corn since he liked working on the pollination process. A few years ago, he and his spouse relocated to central Iowa in order for him to be able to work for the company's headquarters. Myron Stein, the youngest sibling, has been employed on the farm since he was 9 years old. He studied at McPherson College in Kansas, the alma mater of his father, earning a degree in crop science from the institution where his father had taught. Myron began his career in the company as a sales representative and worked his way up to becoming the vice president, regional manager, national sales manager, and finally, president. His 2 daughters, who are the next generation in the household, are employed in the corn nursery of the business. Harry claims, "I have followed my career goals and have always encouraged my children to do the same. Myron continues, but he always gave us the chance to work in the family business if we wanted to be involved. We've all been trained to assign the right tasks to the right person at the right time. We all get along so well since we're all good at different things as siblings. Let us understand the other aspects of the business. The Stine breeding program has addressed other issues throughout the years while concentrating on genetics to boost yields. Since the farm was the first to obtain a patent for soybean varieties that protected the ovule, pollen, plant, and seed, they have become a staple of high-yielding genetics globally. Compared to previous methods, the current breeding procedures have been created more quickly and effectively. Through agreements, the soybean genetics have been shared with other businesses, increasing their yields as well. Advances in corn genetics are also ongoing. Over the years, the Stine breeding program has focused on genetics to increase yields while addressing other challenges. The company has become a global leader in high-yielding genetics because it was the first to secure a patent for soybean cultivators that safeguarded the ovule, pollen, plant, and seed. The latest breeding procedures have been developed faster and with greater efficiency than early techniques. Other companies have gained access to the genetics of soybeans through agreements, which has increased their yields as well. Genetic advancements in corn are also ongoing. Throughout the entire 1930s, the average maize yield in the United States was 24 bushels per acre, but now it has increased gradually to yield over 10 times that. It's a result of a number of factors together. The rise in production is the result of a mixed genetic and all those other things, but yield remains the primary consideration for farmers. What about the growth of Stine brand? As a global brand? With presence in China, Europe, and South America, and the United States, the Stine brand is regarded as global. Even though the company's corn research is unique from most other companies, it's anticipated that over time it will transform the corn industry. They're still creating hybrids with features that are desired in various regions. To be able to produce the needs number of seeds for farmers, we have seed plots around the world. Harry explains. Having farms in place like Guinea to be able to have several generations in a year is important because it's a very big job and there is lag time in different areas. More than 800 patents are held by Stine and its linked companies, many of which are specifically connected to soybeans. Through dealerships or direct sales, there are over 300 sales representatives in the United States. In addition, there are 30 in Latin America and 6 in Europe. The company is one of the biggest privately owned seed companies in the U.S., with over 400 employees. Knowing how to get where you want to go and how to get there is half of the battle won. Our constant goal is to impart knowledge to others through our experiences, according to Warren. In order to proceed, we must adapt a pragmatic approach. Stine has individuals in charge of their main departments who look after their respective portions of the business to help its progress and keep the company successful. What do you think about Harry Stine's beginning, from a humble seed seller to being a billionaire? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Goodbye.